Justin, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Michelle. How are you?
I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl that I actually am talking to you. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me.
No, it's my pleasure, and this is really the power of Clubhouse, really, because you and I met via that app, and it's just a new
Yeah.
wonderful social app, and I love the fact that you just reached out and we connected, and you're like, "Hey, I have this thing. Can we talk?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, it's so awesome, and I feel like I have been able to do that with so many people that
Yeah.
have been mentors and influencers of mine, and like people that I've just been like, oh, like I get giddy as a schoolboy with some people, and the fact that we're here now is just a huge ups on Clubhouse. And I love
Yeah.
that what we're talking about, depression leading by example, because it is so now more than ever, especially in the era of COVID, it's important to
Yeah.
talk about these kind of things.
Absolutely. And like you said, yeah, we met on Clubhouse. I was so grateful. I told you a little bit about the series I was doing. This is Michelle's Conversations That Matter. And what I'm out to do is really elevate the conversation about mental health, have people like yourself tell their story, have clinicians sort of give us some insight into certain diagnosis so we can just have a normal conversation about brain health. And it's
Mhm.
not such a thing.
Mhm.
So thank you. So we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about depression and we're going to get to know you a little bit in a different light than we might know you from your days on American Idol. But for
Mhm.
those who don't know you, can you just tell everyone who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Sure. I'll even look directly at the camera while I do it. So my name is Justin Guarini. You might remember me from the first season of American Idol, where I duked it out with Kelly Clarkson. I have also been in 6 Broadway shows. I'm a Broadway veteran, and you might have seen me pop up on your TV screen recently over the past 6 years as a character named Lil Sweet, or in other words, Lil Sweet. It's this funny character that gives people sweet treats as a part of the Diet Dr. Pepper national campaign that's been happening for the past 6 years on American television. And so while I wear a whole bunch of hats and have throughout my career being an entertainer and performer, the one that I have been wearing lately, in addition to all of that, is the CEO and founder of Profit Under Pressure, which really leverages the core confidence coaching that I do for people. I'm a core confidence coach, and I love working with people and helping them perform to their fullest potential, which is something that I've learned in my experience with performance in front of 30 million people on live television, or in front of however many hundred or thousand in a theater, as well as on television and in commercials. And so it's been a very interesting 18 years. So
Mhm.
can you believe it's been 18 years?
I know. I was going to say, like, it's been a while.
It
It's been
has,
a
since
minute.
I first stepped on the American Idol stage, but
Yeah.
I'm also a proud husband and a dad of 3
Yes.
amazing children and 3 amazing and bad dogs. And so I have really found a unique way to balance work and life. I'm not always successful at it,
Mhm.
but I've been fortunate in what I do and how I do it, that I've been able to balance it and have a really phenomenal career on top of it.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about depression, but I have to ask a few questions that I'm
Yeah,
sure that my audience is going to want to know, right? Like, so
yeah.
you caught us up. You're a father. You're a husband. You are living in the tri-state area.
Mhm.
Looking back on your time on American Idol, what would you say was your biggest highlight from that experience?
Wow. I mean, when you get into the studio and they tell you, "Oh, 30 million people are watching," you can't really wrap your head around that. It's like, and I hate to liken it to this, it's like death tolls in a war. Like when you get to like World War II, for example, and there's like X amount of million people die. It's just a number, right?
Yeah.
You can't wrap your head around what that looks and feels like. And so, 30, I would love to be able to say, 30 million people, Super Bowl numbers in terms of ratings, like we're watching. But what I really loved, my favorite part of the American Idol experience, was the tour, where we went out and there was a point where I literally came up on an elevator out of the center of the stage with all this smoke into an arena of 30,000 screaming fans. And that was the visceral thing there was 100 or some odd people in the audience during the actual show. And then when we did the finale, that was, the Kodak Theater, what was called the Kodak Theater at the time, or maybe it was the Dolby, I can't remember. And that was great. But that touring night after night, and in my 20s, that was what I had felt like was my destiny. Mm-hmm. And really briefly, I'll tell you the origin story for me as a singer. I grew up the son of a prominent politician in Atlanta who would then go on to be chief of police, an African-American man, mm-hmm. and a woman who was a journalist and who would then go on to be one of the 200 people who started up CNN and was an anchor woman on CNN. So I was used to the lights, the cameras, blah, 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 blah. And one summer when I was about 8 years old, the Jackson 5 came to town, wow. touring through town on what was called their Victory Tour. It was like they were all adults and they were getting back together in 1986. And so, long story, slightly less long, I was in the audience there. My dad was head of the security team that was taking care of it. But I felt the lights and the music, and I saw the costumes and the dancing and the singing and the energy of the crowd and the everything, the entire experience that we know and love and someday we'll have again when it comes to concerts. And for no apparent reason, to no one in particular, I remember as clear as day pointing to the stage saying, I want to do that.
Wow.
And it wasn't, and that was the beginning of that open loop. Mm-hmm. I opened a loop. I opened something there. And it wasn't until however many years later in 2002 that I closed that loop, standing on stage, singing on a national tour in front of 30,000 screaming fans, and doing what it is that 8-year-old boy wanted and desired and said that he wanted to do.
Did you have a moment when you were standing there? Did it all come full circle for you?
You know what? No, it wasn't really until literally last week that I made that connection when somebody asked me a question in an interview and I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I closed that loop. I opened the loop when I was 8 and then I closed it when I was 22. And there are so many of those things that are happening and continue to happen throughout my life. And I feel like I've lived 3 different lifetimes, one for Idol, one for Broadway, one as a little Swede. And now I'm entering into my 4th lifetime as all of those things and moving into being a core confidence coach and helping people via the experiences and the wisdom that I've gained over the past almost 20 years.
I have to say, I was doing some additional research on you.
Oh boy.
And I saw this video, this video, actually I posted it on Facebook because I wanted people to see it. The interview you did with Oprah, where you talked openly about depression. And the thing that really hit me was you've not only met Oprah once, you've met her several times. So what was that like? Because she is someone I look up to, and with mental health, I understand she's working on something, and I would love, that's a fantasy of mine, but what was it like to be in her presence and talk to her?
The first time you meet Oprah. And the thing about fame that I've learned is that, it's for suckers. Really, fame is for suckers but what really fame ends up being for the famee, the person who is famous, and I'm sure Oprah experiences this and has experienced it for decades now on a global level. But when I experienced it, it's the same. Your fame is basically other people placing the energy of their wants, their desires, their needs, the things that they believe they lack, they place upon you and then hold you up upon high as very oftentimes being better than or knowing something that they don't know. And it's why when we see fame, people skyrocket to fame, there is this sort of savior mentality. I mean, and look, Oprah, savior, has saved a lot of people's lives. But I'm sure she would tell you, I'm not sure, but I would assume she would tell you that she's just a guide, right? She says, here's something I found. I want to share it with you. And she's basically handing you the key that you then unlock your own lock to the challenge or whatever for you. And then we go, oh, thank you so much for giving me that key. And then we herald her and other people as saviors. But look at saviors throughout history. What happens to saviors? They become lauded. They give of themselves. They are these people who do save. But then what happens at the end of every single savior's life cycle? They become crucified.
Yeah.
Right? You want to talk about Jesus being the most probably known savior, but in some way, shape, or form, that savior, that person that is heralded as a savior, becomes crucified, or that person in modern parlance that we hold in fame and high regard ends up being torn down. You know, that whole, it takes a lifetime to build up your reputation, in a moment to tear it down. And so when I meet people, and I've been around famous people all my life, I kind of feel a little bit in part of me, but the other part of me is like understands it. And even before I was famous myself, like knows that these are just people, and that I can't hold them to this impossible standard, because I'm going to be disappointed every single time. Every single time. So meeting Oprah, I was not disappointed. She just is lovely. But there is, with people at that level, there is just a natural tendency to hold you at arm's length, because you have to, right? And so I spoke with Oprah, and it was really lovely, and she's wonderful and great. But you know, I'm sure only a select few people know. You know, right? As they really, really know. Very lovely to me and kind, and took such great care of me. And I loved speaking with her, because she just is so professional and so wonderful. And is a wonderful person.
That's amazing. So I want to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about depression now. I want to start off by just like acknowledging you, Justin, because, you know, it's the athletes, it's the people with celebrity, it's, you know, the people like you who open up and go first, that really can create a safe space for your fans, for other people who look up to you. So I just really want to acknowledge you for that, because sharing that is power. And you don't, you know, I don't take it lightly when someone wants to talk about it in that role. So, you know, tell us a little bit about your experience with depression, and sort of what did you do, and how did you navigate it, and what was it like for you?
Depression to me, much like fame, much like the business of entertainment, is cyclical, right? You know, I'll tell people 100% of when it comes to the entertainment side of life, you know, 100% of the people who make it in this business never give up. Same thing applies when it comes to mental health challenges. 100% of the people who continue to stay in the game, who continue to search, who continue, you can call it to fight, who can continue to just advocate, whatever it is parlance you want to use, are successful. And the key for me really was understanding, right? Was an understanding of what depression, why do I feel this way? And it's so wild to me, because my daughter, who is 16 now, you know, will come up to me, and she will talk to me at 16, same at 15, about issues and about things like gender identity and depression and mental health that were at 15. Not even, it didn't even really become even things I could remotely understand until I got to college, much less 15. And that was like the seeds of that. You know, mental health was still a taboo, right? You know, I was watching Mad Men a couple of years ago, and somebody said to the main character, John, what's his bucket? You know, hey, maybe you should go see a therapist. No way, everybody's going to think I'm crazy. I'll get fired, right? There still was a hangover, even, and I mean, that was the 50s, 60s, but like there's still been this stigma to mental health. And just within the past few years, that's it. That's really the past few years have we begun to say, I love being in therapy. I love people will start talking openly about it in a way that is so for government on down, right? And so for me, to answer your question more directly, it was just a slow understanding and discovery of, oh my goodness, this is depression. And
Mhm.
then after you really understand what depression is and what level I went to, I went into depression and what that meant to me and what it looked like on me and how it wasn't like the person over here, over there's no, there's no right or wrong way to be depressed.
Right.
And then understanding anxiety, because anxiety, again, that wasn't even a word I understood or was spoken to about throughout my formative years. And so it was just that understanding. And then came the moment for me in college where my dorm room had a stairwell where you could go in and out up to the floors. And every time you went out of one floor, there was an open space, and then you go into the next thing and up the stairs. It was very strange. And it wasn't until one night when I just wasn't feeling well mentally, not knowing that I wasn't feeling well mentally. I just felt like so terrible. School wasn't going well for me. I felt unfulfilled. I felt all these things. And I went out and I just stood at that place and up, and I looked down and I said, I could jump. I could do that. And that was, thank goodness for me, the red flag and the alarm said, okay, I had to hit threshold, right? I had to come to that place where it was like, yeah, because before that it was just like, what? No, that's whatever. Like, but then when it became a reality, and fortunately my parents were very supportive, people around me were really supportive, and that was when therapy really truly became a thing for me. That was when I tried medication. That was when that whole route, that was my first experience for it. And while therapy is still something that's very important to me, I have since, stopped medication, and there could be medications that I'm on, whatever. I mean, and I believe in all of that. And I think that, I know that there are members of my family, who definitely use that as a resource. And I think it's lovely.
Yeah.
I just knew that what I experienced on medication was not for me. And so instead I decided to continue with the route of therapy, and over time, and I'm talking about like 20-25 years, really have recently discovered, like, oh, how can I use anxiety, and how can I use depression? How can I use my feelings, which I cut off from, in order to manage? How can I then, use those things? And I would encourage anyone, regardless of what your mental health plan is, I would encourage you to look up the work of Byron Katie.
Yes.
Byron Katie, right? I mean, yes, right? And and those who know, right? That is work that changed my life. And the work changed my life. It changed the life of a lot of the mentors I have. It changed my relationship with my wife. It changed so many things, and my approach to mental health.
Awesome. That's amazing. Really great stuff. And we're getting some comments here. Wendell is like blowing up the comments. I'm just going to share a few. He's thanking you for all of your vulnerability.
Thanks, Wendell.
Yeah, it's really great. I think people need to hear that, because I think immediately people go, well, they're going to medicate me. I'm not going to do that. But you know what? It's everyone has a unique journey, and everyone's situation is unique to them. I would say spend the time in getting the right therapist, right?
Sure.
Into doing that, and then therefore you'll get care that feels right, and that you'll, like you said, it didn't work for you. It worked, and then it didn't work for you.
I tried one, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's there's a whole slew of variants in terms of medications. And so if the medication route is for you, or if it's not, just continue to experiment. I just found out that there is a test that you can take, a genetic test that you can take, that will tell you which medications, in terms of especially mental health medications, work best with your body chemistry.
It's amazing.
I never knew that.
See?
It's like, what? And I would have killed to have that.
Yeah. It gives you hope, right? Like that the future of mental health is going to be so different than the way it was, right?
Yeah.
So why is it? So give me your insight here. I feel like, you see the tabloids, we lose so many celebrities to suicide. Like, I guess, give us some insight. Why do you think that is? Do you think that these celebrities just become too big? Do you think that no one really is in their corner supporting them? What is it then? Why do we lose them?
I will tell you exactly what it is. And it is something that I suffered with. And anybody who becomes famous or has celebrity has to learn to manage. And that is identity. If you look at the work of Byron Katie, if you look at the work of someone like Garrett J. White, stories. And that's it. What is the story? What is the story that you are living? Because we have stories about everything, right?
Yeah.
When we get up, it's like our story about our body and how we feel.
Yeah.
And what I mean by stories is just like the stories we tell ourselves
Yeah.
about experiences, right? If we have a natural bias towards for example, a person of color, right? And we walk into a room and we go and we leave for a second and we come back and something is missing. There's a story running that will most likely point to that person of color as the first person responsible for that. You know what I mean? And that's just an example, right? But we have stories. And when it comes to celebrity and identity, there is a incestuous story that is wrapped up in the identity that equates to identity. In the incestuous story is how people feel about me at any given moment and what it means for me to be on stage versus what it means to me when I'm not on stage, and what it means when I get a good review or a bad review, or what it means when my all these vanity metrics, how many followers do I have? How many albums have I sold? What did the box office do? And so when celebrities will wrap up their identity in vanity metrics like followers and likes and all that stuff, which doesn't really truly equate to anything of value unless you make it equated to it, then the stories that come from that are tied into, and their worth is tied into, how many fans I have, how much I show up on the television, how many people come to see my show. And the reason why we lose, or one of the main reasons why we lose so many people who are high profile, is because the stories become these beasts that just get out of control and spin other stories. And there is a disconnection from life. There's a disconnection from humanity. There's a disconnection from any sense of normalcy. And without that grounding connection to what it is that makes us human, the ability to just walk out the front door and pick your nose without it being a front page story, right? Or these things, these little grounding anchors, I should say, of humanity all become snapped. And so you wonder why people become untethered and they do real strange things. I mean, look at, for example, I was listening to some old Kanye West. Kanye was telling some beautiful stories, and like the lyrics were so enlightened, and like, a young man of color who came from nothing, being able to create some of the most beautiful poetry in the American canon. And yet, over time, and someone who has continues to deal with mental challenges and has admitted it, thank goodness. But you see, the more the money and the more and now Kanye is like somewhere else, for better or worse, right? I don't mean to put a judgment on it, but you see that we might not lose them physically in terms of death, but you may lose them mentally, spiritually, and all that. So that's really my feel. That story and identity become this blurred thing that takes over.
I loved what you said in your bio. I asked you for your bio to send out to people so they knew who you were, and you said something about you found in your identity being that you have a mother that's Italian, I think, and you have a father that's African American. You said that you learned to take that identity and make that your superpower. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I've never read the book, but the title appeals to me so much. A Man Without a Country. And again, I think it's somebody who is ostracized from America, and he lives on a submarine, which is like out of I think that's what it is.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've never read it. I should probably read it. Before I reference it, I should probably read it, because who knows what's in it. It could be like Mein Kampf for all I know. And I felt like a man without a country, a man without an identity. And when I would go and I would visit, my parents divorced when I was young, and so I would go to the South and I would visit my father. And down there, I was Justin Bell, because that's his last name. And then I would be, during the school year, I would be up in the North, and my mom remarried to Justin Guarini, and my name is Justin Bell Guarini, but through Fame and Idol and all this, it got truncated. And so the context around that is I would go down to Atlanta, and I would be the son of a prominent Black politician, and yet I never felt like I fit in, right? Because I didn't look like everyone else, right? And then I would go up to the North during the school year, and I would be, the son of this Italian journalist and an Italian physicist and engineer, and I never quite felt right, because I just still didn't quite look like everyone and feel or have the same experiences. I mean, talk about being around famous people and stuff. Like the weird childhood that I had was nothing like what the other kids had. So it wasn't until, and I'm talking like a year ago, I'm 42. And I'm talking like a year ago, I was like, I really, and it was 2020. It really was 2020.
Yeah.
2020. Oprah, speaking of, Oprah had her big 2020 vision tour, right? That was supposed to happen. 2020 vision, brilliant marketing, get it, love it. But 2020 really was a year that either revealed who we were or exposed who we were, right? And so I chose to do the work, as Byron Katie would say. I chose to help others with that endeavor. I chose to really look inward, and from that was revealed. And, while we were having the race riots going on and everything that 2020 was, in terms of just the truncation of life and the sort of contraction of life, I looked inward and I was revealed. And one of the things that was revealed was, oh my goodness, it's okay to be other. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to fit in other. I am my own brand, and I'm what people are going to look like, or version of what people are going to look like in 200 years. Right. And so once I really grasped onto that, and I said, oh, I am both. But I am also this unique thing unto myself. Then it just was so freeing, because I didn't have to fit into anybody's round hole or peg or, what I mean, square hole in that. So
So you keep hinting about the work.
Yeah.
So for those of us watching who don't know the work, what are the 4 questions? Can you just give them the 4 questions that turn it around?
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
I do a variation of the work.
So tell us just a little bit. Like,
so what I do is called stacking, which is like kind of the work on steroids. And I've been a member of Garrett J. White's Warrior Brotherhood for about 2 years now. And so Wake Up Warrior is his program, and his thing he calls stacking is based on what, and he'll tell you, it's based right on what Byron Katie does. And so I could not tell you the questions that Byron, it's like, what is your thought? Like, and you have your thought, and then you ask, is that true? I think that might be the question, right? Is it true? And you'd be like, yeah, it's true. And you'd be like, well, is it really true? If you take your ego out of it and all that, is it really true? Like, no. Well, what would be possible if it wasn't true, right? Is that the next one? And so, if I think like, I hate cats, right? That might be a thought that I had. It's the first thing that comes to my mind, right? I hate cats. Is that really true? No, I don't hate cats. If their cat comes up to me, like, I'll pet the cat, but mostly I've had cats, and I wouldn't have cats again. But then I asked myself, well, what would be possible for you if, I hate cats wasn't true? And I would be like, oh, well, I would just see that some people like cats, some people like dogs. There are fun cats. There are not so fun cats. I've known some really great cats in my life. And if a cat came up to me and it looked clean, I would be very sweet to that cat. Like, so I don't really hate cats. And then I think it's turning it around is what she does, right? And it said cats hate me. that's the opposite of that thing. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I can see how cats might hate me sometimes because I might be like try and treat them like a dog and be a little too rough with them, or I can maybe give off an energy that says I hate cats, so they don't really like me, or like, and then I think you just turn it around and say, okay, so what's the last bit? Tell me.
I don't remember the last bit.
Yeah.
I remember, is it
like the best part? Yeah. What would be possible for you? What would be possible if that was that thought wasn't true? And so based on what you know, I mean, what's the lesson that comes out of this, basically?
Yeah.
And so what is a better thought? What's the better thought, really, is what it ends up being. It's like, I don't prefer cats, but I'm happy for people who do. You know what I mean? Like, but if I see a cat, I love. And so you begin to, bottom line, when it comes to this or whatever it is, the work or whatever version of it that you're going to do, using questions to really just question whether or not the validity and whether or not you really truly believe what it is that you say. And from that, again, we come right back around to stories, right? I have a better story now. My story is I hate cats. They're gross. Whatever my story. I don't really hate cats, but I'm just using that as a thing. And yet the better story now is cats are all right. I don't want to own one, but they really are very loving, the most of them. And like they're really sweet and whatever. It's just a better story. And it allows you to get all of the junk out of the way to see what you really truly believe.
Right, exactly. So I want to talk to you. I want to turn our attention to this pandemic just for a minute. A lot of people, like I interviewed Paul Gianfrido from Mental Health America. He's the president of Mental Health America. We were talking about how this pandemic has really shined a light on mental health, and people are struggling. And the CDC said that 1 in 3 are struggling from anxiety or depression, when he was saying, actually, Michelle, this year it's going to be 1 in 2 are going to be dealing with depression or anxiety. So knowing that you have navigated this, how has last year been for you? And do you have any things that you have done to sort of keep yourself on the straight?
Yeah, I am the 1 in 2 anxiety, especially during the beginning of the pandemic and then the spike that we've had not all that long ago. Depression, not so much for me. Anxiety, wow. I have never felt as anxious. I mean, I've gone on stage in front of millions of people. I don't know if I felt as anxious. It's sustained anxiety too, as I have just going to the grocery store.
Wow.
Right? It's wild. And all the what ifs and all of the just the abject terror of not just catching this, because most likely I'm in good health. Although you look at someone in my field of work, Nick Cordero and his wife Amanda Klutz, Nick is a healthy dude and like that. So I can't really rely on that. I just know that I have people I love in my life who are in my pod who are susceptible or vulnerable, rather. My children, my parents, my parents-in-laws. And so that was, I've never felt anxiety on that level, sustained for that long outside of performance, right? And so it has been a lesson in management for me, and really just breath work, which wearing a mask is challenging anyway, right?
Of course.
For breath work, but it's like, how do we continually manage the breath? And it is that focus, and that has been it for me. The breath. Every single time I feel like I'm just fingers on the edge, coming back to the breath, coming back to the breath, coming back to the breath. A lot of meditation. I use the Insight app, which is absolutely free. Absolutely free. Get it. And there are such wonderful manifestation meditations. I was for a long time doing the on Insight. It's Yoga Nidra, and it's by Still Point. So Still Point, Yoga Nidra for sleep.
Nice.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right? If you're having trouble sleeping, even if you're not having trouble sleeping, just the head to toe relaxation and beautiful experience that is just helped so deeply to just recharge my batteries after a day of intense anxiety.
Yeah. Grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us what you're up to. You have Profit Under Pressure. I want to know all about it. How are you
Yeah.
helping people? Like, you have
Thank
such an amazing background to be able to help people in this space. So tell us about it.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm just bringing almost 20 years of experience, wisdom, and just a bunch of stories to from the performance space to influencers and entrepreneurs and people who just are under pressure. I know what it's like to sing in front of 30 million people, be in live Broadway shows when things are going wrong, perform on a stage, a sound stage, when a whole bunch of people are looking at you and you know that you've got a multi-million-dollar commercial campaign riding on your performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking those lessons and shifting them over to, the stay-at-home mom, the CEO, the female entrepreneur like yourself who is building their own business, right? Other people, lawyers, doctors, who are constantly under pressure,
Right.
constantly and consistently under pressure. The question then becomes, how do I profit from that pressure? Because the people who can profit from high pressure jobs get paid more than most other people, right? Athletes, high pressure jobs. CEOs, high pressure jobs.
Yeah.
Stay-at-home moms, high pressure job, right? Look, if anything in 2020 has taught us that, the at-home parent, not necessarily just, making exclusively moms, is a high-pressure job.
Yeah.
So I want people to be able to perform to their highest level. And so I use core confidence coaching, and I am a core confidence coach and developed core confidence coaching, which is the art and science of developing 4 key skills in 4 key areas of your life. The 4 key skills are clarity, first of all, very important, commitment, certainty, and creativity, right? So think about that: clarity, commitment, certainty, creativity, and marrying those up to sort of the 4 quadrants, or the quadrant of life, is your body, your spirituality, your relationships, and your business, right? So when you can get clarity about the facts in your body, it makes it so much easier to get what it is that you want, because so many times we just want something, right? And we think, oh, but we don't get clear about where we are today. We're stuck in this future paradise, but getting clear about where I am today in my body. How do I feel about it? What are my stories around it? What am I eating? How am I exercising? Have I been to the doctor? What's my all of those facts then that we tend to, especially as men, kind of be like, okay, thanks, right? Getting clear about that helps us to plant a flag in the ground and create that starting point, which then makes that future version of us we are able to base that future version of us on fact, right? Because if we don't know where we're starting, then it's all fiction and fantasy, and then the future is based on fiction and fantasy. But when we know where we're starting from and it's based on the facts in our bodies, in our spiritual relationships, that could be God, which is comfortable for me, but it could be Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, Spirit, the universe, the great nothing, it doesn't matter to me. Where we are starting in our relationships with our significant other, our children, so on and so forth, in our business, getting clear on the facts. That's just one facet, right? Clear on the facts allows us to then plant seeds of reality for our future selves and for what we really want. So that's just a brief one little angle on it. So I'm really excited because February 1st, I'm starting my big core confidence challenge. It's a 5-day challenge where I'll go live, much like this, in a Facebook group using StreamYard. I love StreamYard. And so we're excited. Over the next 2 weeks, you'll be seeing a lot of that. But if you want to find out more about it, all you have to do is go to coreconfidencechallenge.com.
Awesome. And I'll put that in the notes as well. And if people want to follow you, they can follow you. I have on the footer your Instagram. That's
please.
how I found you. You know, it was wild. This morning I was in a Clubhouse room, and there were some serious mentors and leaders, the $1 million entrepreneur rooms.
Right.
And there was a woman who they brought up on stage. Must have been 1,000 people in that room. And she just asked if she could sing a song or sing like the few first few chords of a song. The moment she did that, I got chills personally.
Yeah.
But one of the millionaire entrepreneurs who was in your industry personally told her to call him. And that is the power of Clubhouse.
Yes.
Like she just,
the playing field is leveled.
it's amazing.
Absolutely leveled. I mean, and right now, I don't know if it'll stay that way, but the playing field has been leveled. And if you are confident enough to go in there and tell your story,
Yes.
and ask the questions and connect,
yes,
then really good things happen.
People want to help. That's what's amazing. There are people in there that genuinely want to help people succeed. And that's what I'm like inspired by big time by this platform.
Yeah.
So before we start to wrap up, Justin, what is one thing that you want people to know about you that maybe we don't know about you?
Oh my goodness. What is one thing I want you to know that maybe people don't know? I love to teach. That's it. I used to be an entertainer and a performer who thought, those who can't teach, right? And I thought it was like so cool, right? Yeah, and but again, that's just youth and lack of experience, right? But what I really understood was the best way to learn anything is to teach it.
Teach it, yeah.
Right? Yeah, and so it wasn't until I started really delving into helping performers and helping other people in my field do what it is that came naturally to me and that I had learned to do and make natural over the years, that I really began to like fall in love with it. And I was like, oh my, I kind of like this. It's great. And I started really teaching, and that's why, as my brand has evolved, as I continue to perform, I also have really, really gone into Clubhouse and added as much value as I can, and I'm trying to add value to the marketplace with entrepreneurs and influencers who all have pressure in their lives, right? We have daily pressure, period. I mean, COVID alone is the pressure that we all can share. But I love to teach, and I really, really learn so much from teaching. And so that's something that a lot of people might not know. And I like teaching just as much as I like getting up on the stage, if not slightly more than I like getting up on the stage and performing and singing.
That's awesome. Oh, Justin, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course.
I want to respect your time, and I'm just so grateful that you're here. You're talking so openly about your journey. You're just a great human being, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the fact that you have this 60 some odd episodes in, Michelle. That's amazing. What you are doing is what I would consider God's work, and it is beautiful because you are helping to expand the conversation around mental health, leading by example. I mean, it's a perfect title that you put underneath us there, because you are leading by example here. And it is so, so important, because like that little 8-year-old version of me that pointed up to the stage and said, I want to do that someday, you never know who is in your audience. And I hope that I was able to unlock something for someone who's watching this. And I know for a fact, especially if you've done 60 some odd of them, there is someone, whether it's Leah or Lewis or the other folks in here, Wendell, who are touched by what it is that you do and what it is that you say. And I would encourage everyone who is watching this now and who has continued to watch Michelle's conversations to keep watching, because if you haven't found something yet that is going to open a huge door for you, you will, for sure. So continue down the path that you're on, Michelle. And I'm so happy that I got to be a stop along the way.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you so much. All right. I'll let you go. I don't want to, but I'll let you go.
All right, bye.
Bye.